And welcome to the Ruben Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for Amazon's original film, The Vast of Night. In the twilight of 1950s, one fateful night in New Mexico, young switchboard operator Faye and charismatic radio DJ Everett discover a strange audio frequency that could change their small town and the future forever. Andrew Patterson directs this film. It's his directorial debut, and I've got to say, if this is the first film that you kick out, then wow, your future is bright. I've heard nothing about this guy. I know nothing about him. I checked him out on IMDb. There is no news about this guy. If you know anything about him, let me know, please, because I want to see what other, even shorts that he's done. Anyway, back to the film. This film had a really tiny budget, but what they did with it is quite astonishing, really. I watched a film yesterday that also had a tiny budget, but what they did with it was just awful, and I'm so glad. This has restored my faith in film. It's one of those films that, as a filmmaker or a person that reviews films, it makes you want to take down notes so that you can study and learn what they've done with the shots. You can see where they've used their budget and where they've had budget constraints and what they've done to do that. So there are long dialogue bits that they've had to have their protagonists use and learn, and there were no issues with that. If you have two protagonists that don't have any screen presence, then you're going to have issues with them kind of regurgitating your dialogue, and if they don't have presence, it's not going to work. But for this, it did really work, because the two protagonists that you have are so charismatic and so likable right from the start. Literally the first 10 seconds I was like, I like these guys. The whole aesthetics of the film as well really places you in the film, from set dressing to costumes to the dialogue that's written for these guys to speak. It just places you in the moment, so it's very, very quickly you feel like you're in there with them rather than watching a film, if that makes sense. You forget that there are cuts, that you forget that you're watching a film, and I think that's largely due to the budget constraints, because they are very, very long cuts. So there are like sequences where you literally see one of your protagonists at the switchboard talking for like 10-minute sequences, and occasionally might cut, but for the most part you have this like a young lady or a young DJ, and they're just talking and switching and operating and listening to the phone calls, and that has to be riveting enough to keep your attention, and it is, which I think is amazing. There's also these sequences that heighten the tension, so it builds up. The first 20 minutes of the film, barely anything happens. It's just building up characters. It's showing us what you need to know about the two main protagonists, and you think nothing's happened. You can think that, but if you go back and watch it again, you'll see that they were setting up like those little nudges towards the arc of the story, which I think is ingenious. It's a thing that you can use as a storyteller. If you don't have a large budget, you can literally just do little bits, and then later on it will reflect to that, and you'll be showing, oh, okay, I see what you were doing. That you were building it until you get to fruition at the end, which is fantastic. This is one of those films that I think is an anomaly, because it's mostly telling, not showing. There are massively long dialogue sequences, and for the most part the rule with film is show, don't tell. But when you have almost no budget, what are you going to do? So you have your actors telling the stories. They're interviewing people. They're listening to experiences that people have experienced. They're trying to find out what this tone is, what this sound is. And so you have people calling in on this like DJ show, this radio show, and you have people talking about what they've seen. And so you're building an idea of what this film is trying to tell you, the story, the arc. And so it's one of the few experiences I've seen where telling has worked rather than showing, because they're showing what you see, how the characters are experiencing what they've gone through, and as they're telling their story, it really kind of gets you gripped into that story. Now, there isn't a lot happening apart from, oh, this is the sound, some people are calling, some people have reacted to what they've seen or what they've heard, and so that, for most people, if you tell them that is the story, you'll be like, well, that sounds really boring. But for some reason, this really works. I feel like it is an anomaly of a film. And I've seen some people going, well, this is a great idea, but it hasn't been executed well. I would totally disagree with that. I think this proves what you can do with little to no budget. This proves that you don't always need millions to make a great story. It feels like an indie project, but it's the right vibe for this type of film. The language, the era, just the way the story is told, what the story is they're telling. It's kind of like a Close Encounters alien vibe, and it does pay off towards the end. Even from the opening shot, you can tell you're getting a Twilight Zone type of film, and that sets it up brilliantly. There's this long camera zoom that goes into the tube of a TV, and then you experience the story. And the director is not shy of doing things that would probably make some filmmakers pause and go, I don't really want to do that. He does the tube thing a number of times. He does blackouts and uses just black screen for a few seconds, and it's used at the right moments. They just really heighten that tension that they're going for. And sometimes the dialogue is sped up, that you have realistic conversations going on according to the tension that's quickly heightened, and then it snaps out of it, and it's just fun to watch, I think, which I was surprised. Even though you have that tension, it's just entertaining to watch. The only slight issue I have with this film, and that's down to a personal thing, is that when you get to the end and it reveals like kind of what you've expected, what you think is going to happen, I feel like the mystery that is shown, it kind of is an anticlimax. I almost feel like you needed to leave it as a mystery and just go, well, what was it? And then, maybe not have that climax. That's personal for me, because when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I expected it to be that. But I'm not sure exactly what's happened at the end. I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah, chat to me in the comments below. Do the spoiler thing. Let me know what you think exactly has happened. Is it totally guessable, or do you think there's something more going on there? I think it's very predictable in that kind of storyline. You can guess what's going to happen, and that's why I kind of wanted to keep it the mystery. But for a first directorial debut, this is a fantastic film, very entertaining to watch, massively dialogue heavy, which I don't normally like that much apart from in Quentin Tarantino films. I thought it worked. Yeah, for some reason worked. I could go into about camera techniques and the use of score. All of that is excellent. There isn't a massive soundtrack. They use orchestral pieces slightly, but for the most part, it's just tone and sounds that come in to heighten when is needed. And that works fantastically for this film. I think I can see where they've used their budget constraints as well with that tone and sound, but like everything just goes, yeah, okay, this is indie, and this is why it's going to work. So chat to me in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this film. Thanks so much for watching this review, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long on Tuesday.